welcome you to this Bible study of the Banking Blessings Ministry. My name is Goodluck Ofebu, and this is my wife.
On behalf of Ofebu is my name. We welcome you to today's Bible study. Stay with us and be blessed.
Yeah. We welcome you to our continuing study on waiting for God's time, in which we look at the life of David during the period between his anointing to be king of Israel and his actually becoming king. We want to look at the events that occurred, the things that he did, and while he was waiting to become king, he was waiting for God's time. And we try to learn from them when we are waiting for God's fulfillment of a promise in our life, when we are waiting for God's intervention in our life. If we can learn from what David did, maybe we will know what to do. Because waiting for God's intervention we are not expected to just sit and wait. God expects us to do things and to prepare ourselves to receive his intervention. And we can learn this through David's life as king in waiting. In this particular study, we are going to look at the immediate period following his victory over Goliath. A lot of things changed in David's life. Many of the changes were positive, but there were a few that were not positive. And that's how we chose the title Admiration and Pain for David, because a lot of things he did led to growth of admiration, growth of recognition, growth of his reputation as a potential future leader of Israel. But some things happened that also led to growing pains for David. So we're going to look at those. Honey, do you have an opening statement? Okay. So what we're going to learn, as I said, we're going to see that the recognition and admiration of David grew during this period. And that, of course, started with his victory over Goliath. And he developed the reputation. During this period, a lot of things that he did led to his reputation as somebody that was successful in everything he did. Somebody that was effective. Somebody that was expected to be a good leader. All of these were added to his reputation. This reputation of him grew during the period. But as we said, there was also pain that developed during the period and grew because of his interrelationship with Saul. And we're going to see more about this. And we'll see that it was during this period that he married Saul's daughter, Michal. And we'll discuss that marriage a little bit, because it appears to us that there was a strong indication that marriage was not of God, but David went on to marry the girl anyway. So we'll look at this, and one of the things we learn from there is that even when you are waiting for God's intervention, that temptation, the devil doesn't sit and rest. The devil may still try things to divert your attention or to try to make things difficult for you. Our reading will be coming from 1 Samuel chapter 18. There is a little bit from the tail end of chapter 17 before we get into chapter 18. Well, we'll begin with first the recognition that David was not known prior to his encounter with Goliath. Of course, he was known in his family and maybe among the close relations, but he wasn't known. He was just a young man tending sheep in the wilderness, a shepherd boy, we'll call him. So among the people he worked with, some might know him, but no other person did. Even Saul that he worked with, and that this is where we get the information really. It's an interaction he had with Saul showed that Saul actually did not know him, even though he was working in Saul's service. He was Saul's harp player and armor bearer. Though it was part-time, he would spend some time in Saul's house and some time in the field where he was tending sheep. But leading to his encounter with Goliath, it became obvious that Saul really didn't know who he was, didn't know him well enough to recognize him outside. So after Saul had cleared him to go and fight Goliath, he asked his commander Abner, so, who is that young man? Whose son is he? And Abner said, he didn't know. So when David finished fighting Goliath, killed him, and came back with his head, Abner brought him to Saul, and that's when he introduced himself to Saul. Let us read about this from 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 55 to 58.
1 Samuel chapter 17, reading from the New International Version, verse 55. As Saul watched David going out to meet the Philistine, he said to Abner, commander of the army, Abner, whose son is that young man? Abner replied, as surely as you live, your majesty, I don't know. So the king said, find out whose son this young man is. Verse 57, as soon as David returned from killing the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul, with David still holding the Philistine's head. Whose son are you, young man? Saul asked him. David said, I am the son of your servant, Jesse of Bethlehem.
Yeah. Okay, so he was starting from what we may call obscurity. He was not known. He was just an ordinary young man, like many, just like many others like him in Israel at that time. But now his recognition is going to grow. Many more people are going to know him suddenly, know about him, because he killed Goliath and led Israel to victory over the Philistines. He was a young man that was not even old enough to be in the army, but he accomplished this. So the news spread like wildfire through Israel, and of course people came out when they were going back, returning from the battle. People came out to meet them, and they made up songs that they sang, and then in this song you could see how they talked about David, showing a great recognition for the young man David. He was highly admired because of the victory, and this was not a one-time thing. It actually started the growth of his reputation. Another thing that happened was that Saul also appeared to like him and wanted him to stay permanently in his employment. He didn't want him to work part-time anymore. So, and while there, occasionally Saul will send him on a mission, and he did so well on these missions that Saul promoted him, promoted him to high positions. But the way they praised David when they were returning from the battle, and the way his popularity grew, became a problem for Saul. And one of the things that Saul did, we're going to see in more detail, that Saul actually wanted to kill David. But one of the things he did when he became very uncomfortable with David was he made him a battalion commander, believing that will take him away from home, from his house, from his presence, and also that will expose him more to the enemy. He wanted to get him to be more involved with the enemy, hoping that the enemy will somehow get rid of him. But the fact that he was battalion commander became an opportunity for his popularity to even grow further, because he now frequently, as a battalion commander, he frequently commanded, took units to different types of battles and did very well. He led them in their campaigns and did very well. So the army loved him, the officers loved him, and of course the stories about him, news about him, filtered into ordinary people, and his popularity grew. He became a highly popular person. So this growth in his popularity will tell us that, maybe this is why God brought him into this, to help him prepare to become. Remember, he has been anointed to be king. So this is part of his preparation to become king. So the growth of his popularity in the army would say that that his career in the army, the fact that he joined the army, was a good thing. But before we say too much more, let's read about this. Unless Honey want to say something. Okay. Let's read several selections, so about 3 selections from 1 Samuel chapter 18.
Okay. Yeah. 1 Samuel chapter 18, reading from verse 1. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return home to his family. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Verse 4, Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic and even his sword, his bow and his belt. Verse 5, whatever mission Saul sent him on, David was so successful that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the troops and Saul's officers as well. When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul, with him singing and dancing with... let me take that again.
Mm-hmm.
When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul, with singing and dancing, with joyful songs, and with timbrels and lyres. Verse 7, as they danced, they sang, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but had departed from Saul. Verse 13, so he sent David away from him and gave him command over 1,000 men, and David led the troops in their campaigns.
So what is happening here is that Saul's feeling, even though initially he liked David, now his feeling is making a transition. He's changing from love and admiration to now envy. He envied David because the Lord was with him. He was afraid of David because somehow he began to see David as a threat to his dynasty. Mm-hmm. And of course he hated David. We'll talk about this transition later on, because this is actually something that can occur in real life and may have occurred. If you have a a young person that is growing in politics, gets an older person as his mentor. Initially, the older person likes him, but as he grows and shows his potential, the relationship can change, the feeling can change. And some of the things that happened to David actually that are instructing us that in situations like that, maybe you should watch out for this type of change of feeling, between a mentor and a mentored. Anyway, let's continue the reading.
1 Samuel 18 verse 14. In everything he did, he had great success, because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaigns. Verse 30. The Philistine commanders continued to go out to battle, and as often as they did, David met with more success than the rest of Saul's officers, and his name became well known.
So we see that his reputation as an effective leader and as an effective army commander grew in Israel. Everything he did added to his reputation. He was successful in everything. Well, but that's not the only thing that happened. We already saw that Saul's feeling about David has changed. He has begun to see David as his enemy. He became increasingly angry with David. At some point, he even openly declared that David was his enemy. He made several attempts to kill David. When David was playing for him, he would on 2 occasions, he threw his spear at David, and David ducked. David was able to elude him. And he became, as we saw, he became afraid of David. I think the main thing there was he felt that David was becoming very popular and was going to win over the choice, became the choice of Israel for the next king. Saul had seen himself as the beginning of a dynasty. He expected that he will at some point hand over to his son Jonathan and so on. And that actually was what God expected when he made Saul king. But it didn't happen that way. We saw in 2 Bible studies when he fell out of favor with God. That didn't mean much to him. What all he saw was, here is a young man that is rising, very popular. Most likely Israel is going to love him and will wish that he would take over as king. So he wanted to kill David. He believed that he could solve that problem by killing David. One of the things he did was he promoted David to battalion commander. I said that already, believing that this will keep David out of his presence and that this will expose him more to danger. Let us read from 1 Samuel chapter 18, 2 selections.
1 Samuel chapter 18 verse 10. The next day an evil spirit from God came forcefully on Saul. He was prophesying in his house while David was playing the lyre, as he usually did. Saul had a spear in his hand, and he hurled it, saying to himself, I'll pin David to the wall. But David eluded him twice. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but had departed from Saul. So he sent David away from him and gave him command over 1,000 men, and David led the troops in their campaigns. In everything he did, he had great success, because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him.
28.
Oh. When Saul realized that the Lord was with David and that his daughter Michal loved David. 29. Saul became still more afraid of him, and he remained his enemy the rest of his days.
Yeah. Well, in all of this, one of the things that happened, you could see that Saul wanted to kill David in a moment of rage, but that didn't work. Then he saw an opportunity. He wanted to use his daughters to snare David into doing something dangerous against the enemy. So first of all, he offered his first daughter to David and said, look, why don't you become my son-in-law? David did not go for it. David refused. And when it was time for I've forgotten her name, to be married.
Michal.
No, the first daughter.
Saul's first daughter.
Yeah. Her name is, we'll see it in the reading actually, we'll see the name. Then David, Saul's first daughter was married to someone else. So David dodged that problem. Mirab, yeah. Then after that, Saul was informed that his second daughter, Michal, was in love with David, and he proposed to David again intending to use the girl as a snare for David, to sort of lure him into something dangerous. But initially David didn't want, but Saul pressed on, and we will see that at some point he made he made a gruesome request that I believe should have told David that this thing was not of God. But instead, David went and fulfilled the request and got married to Michal. And we've discussed the marriage of David and Michal maybe twice in our Bible study series. And one of the things we know is that the marriage was not fruitful. Michal never had a child, and the marriage was tumultuous. They didn't live. They lived a short time. David ran away. And then when David became king, they lived for some time again. So there was it was not a successful marriage by any means. And that would tell us that, this is not a marriage that God wanted David to get in. And maybe this gruesome request that Saul made of David that we're going to read was an indication, something that indicated to David that this marriage was not of God, and maybe if he had listened to that, maybe he would not have gotten into that marriage. But the point of saying all this is that even though David was preparing to become king of Israel, waiting for God's time, doing a lot of things right and making progress towards that, the devil did not leave him alone. He brought temptation in different ways, and in one of these temptations, it appears that he may have succeeded in luring David into a marriage that was not really good for him. But let us read the details from the Bible from 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 18 to 27. We're not going to read the whole thing, we'll just read some selections.
Okay. Yeah. 1 Samuel 18, verse 17. Saul said to David, "Here is my older daughter Michal. I will give her to you in marriage. Only serve me bravely and fight the battles of the Lord." For Saul said to himself, "I will not raise a hand against him. Let the Philistines do that."
Yeah.
But David said to Saul, "Who am I, and what is my family or my clan in Israel, that I should become the king's son-in-law?" So when the time came for Michal, Saul's daughter, to be given to David, she was given in marriage to Adriel of Meholah.
Okay, so David dodged that one. You could see there that what Saul was after was trying to use his daughter to lure David into doing something dangerous. He said, "Marry my daughter. All I want from you is, fight more bravely, kind of." So, but David didn't go for it. However, that's not the end. Let's keep reading.
Verse 20. Now Saul's daughter Michal was in love with David, and when they told Saul about it, he was pleased. I will give her to him, he thought, so that she may be a snare to him, and so that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. So Saul said to David, now you have a second opportunity to become my son-in-law.
David did not accept initially, but Saul pressed on. Let's keep reading.
Verse 24. When Saul's servants told him that what David had said, Saul replied, say to David, the king wants no other price for the bride than 100 Philistine foreskins to take revenge on his enemies. Saul's plan was to have David fall by the hands of the Philistines. Oh, 27. David took his men with him and went out and killed 200 Philistines and brought back their foreskins. They counted out the full number to the king, so that David might become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave him his daughter Michal in marriage.
Yeah. Okay, so we're saying here the Bible gave us this information, but looking at it, it appeared that there is something about Saul's demand that told David that no, something is wrong. It's one thing to kill your enemy, but it is another to begin to perform the, I don't know if I'll call it surgery, to remove their foreskin and bring it to essentially mutilate. And this is something that ordinarily, if you look at it, say, well, no, this is not of God. This is not, if it's just going to war and killing your enemy, that's one thing. But doing this type of thing indicates to you that there is something wrong here, and maybe it was a way that God wanted David to give David a hint that this marriage was not a good choice for him. But anyway, he fell for the temptation, and of course the Bible doesn't really tell us, this is our own interpretation here. And assuming we are right, then it was a temptation that David fell for. And one of the things we learn from there, that even when you are immersed in the things of God, even when you are doing everything right, the devil is not going to rest. The devil will tempt you, and you have to hold on to your principles, the principles of living in the image of God, the principles of God, to recognize when something is likely to be of the devil or when something is not of God. And if you really want to know this, the Holy Spirit will tell you that you have to watch out for temptation, because the devil will not rest. He'll be looking for a way to get you to do something stupid. Well, so that is it really. It was a period, an important period in David's preparation to become king of Israel. His popularity grew widely. His reputation as a potential leader of Israel grew widely because of his success. He had a reputation as somebody that was successful in everything he did, was successful as a leader, was a very good leader. But at the same time, temptation came through his relationship with Saul. Saul became, initially liked David, but later on hated him and wanted to kill him, to the point of trying to use his daughters as snares to get David. The first time he failed. The second time, well, he wasn't quite successful, but he was partially successful in the sense that he got David to marry the lady, Michal.
Yeah, quite interesting. I think one of the things we see with David here is that the things, the potentials that God, his God-given potentials, and the character that God saw in David, that I believe made him choose David as a ruler, a king over Israel, became things that kind of earned him jealousy from Saul. Both his strength, his success, his ability to succeed. Because despite everything that was happening to him, anything he was asked to do, he was very successful at it.
Yeah.
And rather than earn him admiration from Saul, it earned him admiration from the people of Israel, but it earned him hatred, more and more hatred and dislike from Saul. But one remarkable thing here is that did not make him change who he is. He didn't try to say, oh, this king doesn't like me, I'm going to get back at him. He still continued to play for Saul.
Yeah.
He continued to work for him. And that is a remarkable quality of somebody who would be king, who would be a good king. You don't have to think of vengeance. You don't have to punish people, because what we see in today's politics and most rulers in the world is that inability to be able to be a leader over everybody, maybe it's in a nation, over all your citizens. These days, people will say, oh, these people did not vote for me.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm not going to be nice to them. Or you say, they have different views. They're of another political party. So I'm not going to be nice to them. That is not what God wants. There is never a time that everybody's going to love you.
Yeah.
It's not possible. And that quality, you see that David has it. Despite the fact that Saul was attacking him, he knew Saul wanted to kill him. Oftentimes he ran, but he still continued to work for Saul and be humble and let God, who had brought him that far, be the one to do the fight for him.
Yeah.
So humility is very, very important. It's an important, it's a virtue in any leadership or in any leader. Humility is very important, and the fact that you don't want to revenge you against any group of people for either exercising their opinion or something like that. You have to be king over all. And we saw that David was king over the whole of Israel.
Yeah.
He didn't say these are Saul's people, Saul's kinsmen. In fact, one of his best friends, buddies, was Saul's son.
Yeah.
As we're going to see much later.
Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah.
He maintained that relationship, and I think it's a very, very important thing that we should learn here. That even when we find ourselves in a position of leadership, we should not discriminate based on anything. We should try to be leader over the people that we have been appointed to be leader, and to be humble about it, and remove revenge or to get back at somebody who did not vote for you, or who did not like you, or who campaigned against you, or who said one bad word or the other against you. I think this is something important that I was able to glean from this. David's humility was shown in this place.
Okay, well, this is a study we'll continue. Today's installment is small, is short, but it has its lessons about growing admirations and growing pains for David following his victory over Goliath. We thank you to have joined us in this Bible study, And we remind you that all our Bible studies are available at bankingblessing.org. We pray that you will learn something from our program that will make a positive impact in your life and bring you closer to God's purpose for your life. Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless you.